In order to keep the lines clear, we ask you to mute yourself. Actually, no, I should have read it before recording. Anyway, today is Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. My name is Tatiana T, and I'm a recovered Al-Anon and will be leading this meeting. We want to welcome everyone to our Al-Anon Big Book Recovery meeting. This is a step speaker meeting that meets every Wednesday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will study the 12 steps by using the precise instructions out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous as they relate to us as Al-Anon. So let's get our meeting started. This is the original AA preamble by the AA Grapevine describing the fellowship in 1940. We study the preamble with an open mind and open heart to consider how it applies to Al-Anon. This helps us to stay focused on the message of recovery that pioneers intended while observing the traditions in action. Through the actions taken based on the instructions of the basic text, we comprehend what the pioneers meant when they described the membership of AA, which is that they worked the program of recovery and they no longer drank. In our case, we're no longer obsessed over the alcoholic. Through continuous action and study of these principles, the understanding of the value of the original preamble reveals itself. We ask that for your humble consideration of our sincere admiration of the pioneers of Alcoholics Anonymous. The simple hope is that we of Al-Anon will grow into the same clarity and unity that birthed the original 12-step fellowship, because without them, after all, none of us would be here. The original AA preamble. We're gathered here because we are faced with the fact that we are powerless over alcohol and are unable to do anything about it without the help of a power greater than ourselves. We feel that each person's religious views, if any, are his own affair. The simple purpose of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is to show what may be done to enlist the aid of a power greater than ourselves, regardless of what our individual conception of that power may be. In order to form a habit of depending upon and referring all that we do to that power, we must at first apply ourselves with some diligence. By often repeating these acts, they become habitual and the help rendered becomes natural to us. We have come to know that as alcoholics we suffer from a serious disease for which medicine has no cure. Our condition may be the result of an allergy, which makes us different from other people. It has never been permanently cured by any treatment with which we are familiar. The only relief we have to offer is absolute abstinence, the second meaning of AA. There are no dues or fees. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Each member squares his debt by helping others to recover. An Alcoholics Anonymous member is an alcoholic who, through the application of and adherence to the AA program, has forsworn the use of any and all alcoholic beverages in any form. The moment he takes so much as one drop of beer, wine, spirits, or any other liquid containing alcohol, he automatically loses all status as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. AA is not interested in sobering up drunks who are not sincere in their desire to stay sober for all time. Not being reformers, we offer our experience only to those who want it. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and in which we can join in harmonious action. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our program. Those who do not recover are people who will not or simply cannot give themselves to this simple program. Now, you may like our program or you may not, but the simple fact remains that it works, and we believe is our only chance to recover. There is a vast amount of fun included in the AA fellowship. Some people might be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity, but just underneath there lies a deadly earnestness and a full realization that we must put first things first, and with each of us, the first thing is the solution to our alcoholic problem. To drink is to die. Faith must work 24 hours a day, in and through us, or we perish. In order to set the tone for this meeting, I ask that we bow our heads in a few moments of silent prayer and meditation, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I wish to remind you that whatever is said in this meeting expresses our own individual opinions as of today and as of up to this moment, We do not speak for AA as a whole, and you are free to agree or disagree as you see fit. In fact, it is suggested that you pay no attention to anything which might not be reconciled with what is in the AA Big Book. If you don't have a Big Book, it is time you bought one. Read it, study it, live with it, follow the directions in it, and learn what it means to be an AA. This is the end of our 1940 preamble. A sponsor is anyone who has had a psychic change as a result of working the steps and has the willingness to work with others. For those looking for a sponsor to guide them through the steps, please stay tuned and have your pens ready to record phone numbers immediately after the meeting. Each AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, Each Al-Anon group ought to be a spiritual entity having but one primary purpose, that of carrying the message to the Al-Anon who still suffers. This is our primary spiritual aim. Our job as a group is to provide people with a place to learn about and work the steps. It has been our experience that working the steps consistently provides us with a better, saner life. We consider all else to be an outside issue. This includes personal problems. The proper venue for sharing such problems is with a sponsor. This is, after all, where real recovery takes place, in working the steps with a sponsor. We're just so glad we're all here, and we're all here because we're not all there. There will be a period of fellowship after the meeting. If you have questions, if you need a sponsor, if you need to check in or get current, or if you want to discuss our literature, please stick around for the fellowship. That would be a better time for these subjects. Right. So, today we have come to steps 10, 11, and 12. These are the 3 steps that are required to maintain recovery for the rest of our lives. It's important to know that this program is a way of living. It's not a once and done program, and it's kind of like any chronic conditions. We call ourselves chronic Al-Anons. So as any chronic condition, you can just kind of brush it off and think it'll go away. So it's not an acute illness, it's a chronic illness. And without proper care, just like any chronic illness, like if you're diabetic, you can't just get away with one shot of insulin and then you're done. So you have to do it every day. I'm kind of debating if I should talk about step 1, because step 1 is the foundation of everything. And the preamble actually says it really well, that this program is about the fact that we are powerless over our thinking, and we are unable to do anything about it without the help of a power greater than ourselves. So the whole point of this program is to enlist the aid of a power greater than ourselves. And so in steps 1, 2, and 3, we sort of diagnose ourselves in step 1. In step 2, we're told what the solution is, which is to find higher power or God of your understanding. And step 3 is just a decision, like, okay, yes, I am at this point, and yes, I believe that seeking a power greater than me is the only solution left for me. There's nothing else left, so I'm going to throw myself into this program. And then we go through a period of like initial action steps, which is 4 through 9, where we clear out everything that is blocking us from that power. And in step 9, we start to have that spiritual awakening or spiritual experience, as the book says. It could be sudden, it could be more subtle, it could be that other people notice it before you, and so on. But then the task is, because it's a chronic illness, and our problem is our ego, and ego is very sneaky, and it's very smart. So every single person in the 12-step program is very smart. We think a lot, and we're good at reasoning, at figuring things out with our minds, and that's kind of partially or mostly what gets us in trouble in the first place, because we're too smart to be like for our own good in a way. And so the illness will take this intellectual ability, and intellect is not sanity. It's like these are two different things, or reason, logic and sanity are also two different things. So our illness will use our own smarts, our own intellectual abilities against ourselves. So we can take any theory, we can take any, philosophy, we can take any moral code, and we can twist it. Our illness will twist it so that we get mentally obsessed again. So, in order to stay healthy, in order to stay recovered for the rest of our lives, the book prescribes a certain discipline. And so now we're going to be talking about the discipline steps, which are 10 and 11. Discipline is just, the program actually talks about, when we were talking about the inventory, it talks about our life as a business. So if we compare it, we came to program, if we compare it to the business, we came to program completely bankrupt. So we were, completely clogged up. We were out of, we couldn't function. And so now we need to build a successful life, right, with the aid of a power greater than ourselves. And any successful person will tell you that discipline is like number one thing that they rely upon. And so also do we, So let's talk about step 10. Step 10 is usually it's kind of like, first of all, what is step 10? Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And on page 84 it says, this meaning step 9, this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. So here is the stage. We continue to take personal inventory. So whatever we did in step 4 and 5, which means finding our character defect, we continue to do it on a daily basis. And there are two words that I really like here. Actually, one word was in the description of step 4. That word was serious. And the other word is vigorous. So vigorous we see in both steps 4 and 10. So the inventory has to be done vigorously. So if you imagine a warehouse and there's a bunch of stuff there, right? You can't just kind of like once in a while go in there and look at this thing. Oh, I see there's like a box of, I don't know, T-shirts there, or there's a box of, I don't know, diapers, whatever, right? So we need to take inventory of everything, right? We need to actually know what is going on in this warehouse at any moment, any day, or day and night. That's actually, that's what I consider like vigorously or thoroughly do an inventory. And this, in a way, this is like where we can apply our natural, perfectionism or obsessiveness. That's a good use for the obsession, is to figure out everything that ego is throwing at you and disarm the ego, right? I usually tell people this is like my favorite sport that I engage in. It's my favorite sporting activity is hunting my ego, hunting for character defects. I love doing it because we grow in understanding and effectiveness, and the more you grow, the more you if in the beginning the ego was this really scary monster that I didn't know what it was going to do the next moment. It's really scary. But then as you learn with years, you kind of learn its tricks. It can temporarily kind of pull you off the course. That's when the sponsor comes in, right, to correct you. But just watching this creature that is our ego and then is trying to trick us, and it's trying with all its might to pull me back into the illness, and it's kind of it becomes like with God, right? You can watch it, and then eventually it becomes almost like fun. My ego used to scare me. I also tell my proteges, it's like I treat my mind in kind of the way where I'm constantly living with a mental health patient. And so this mental health patient, he's insane, and he's trying to get my attention, with however he can, right? And so it's my job not to listen to him, but to say like, oh, wow, great job. You're doing the job. Okay, go away now. I need to sleep or whatever. And once I remember I was laughing so hard. It was like my mind used to like throw a bunch of fears at me in the morning. So when I was ill, or pretty much all my life, you wake up and there's like, like this huge like bucket of fears. Like, here's what we're going to be afraid of today. Here's what you're going to be worrying about today. When I recovered, all this stuff just went away, and I just wake up and I'm like, oh, nice, clear mind. Like, what a novelty. I mean, that was really new to me, and once my mind was like, I wake up, I do something in the middle of the day, I have this like thought in my head, like, oh, what if you get sick with hepatitis? You got enlarged liver. So it's kind of funny. Like, my dad drank, but I was the one that was enlarged liver. And my ego is like, if you get hepatitis, you have this like liver problem, so you're gonna die. And I listen to this, like, I'm like, really? Like, hepatitis? Like, where did that come from? Like, what on earth? How on earth did you come up with that? Like, there's no, like, risk of it. Like, there's no obvious risk. Like, so anyway, it's just going to try any desperate tactic, like, to get your attention. And so here's what we do. Here's the algorithm. In this paragraph on page 84 is the algorithm for pretty much like, this is our daily discipline. And if you read it very attentively, every word, it actually, like, it gives you the whole algorithm, the whole routine of how you catch those character defects, those little bastards, It says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and we make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. And these are like, it's just like 4 lines or however many, in the book, and it's absolutely amazing how precisely they are written. So we continue to watch, right? We watch all the time. So the watching never ends, right? So I wake up and I watch. Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. How do you watch for selfishness? Usually, in the inventory, selfishness was kind of like the last column in our inventory. So sometimes selfishness in itself is not evidence. It's not self-evident, right? But there are signs that you can watch for, and the biggest sign is when you lose your peace. So if I wake up and I feel like rushed, I have to run somewhere real fast, or if I feel like some kind of emotional discomfort, or if I feel anger at somebody, or, it's just any loss of peace. So you really have to learn how to watch yourself. It's very important. And that's where the thoroughness, the vigorousness comes. You don't just brush it off. There is no instruction here, is that, oh, well, if you have a big worry, then you do a 10-step. And if it's something just passing by, you don't. No. My proteges often ask this question, but what if I just give it to God and it goes away? I'm like, where in the instructions does it say that you just not complete the complete sequence of actions that you need to do for step 10, right? So we continue. So I am, I lost my peace. Okay, what's going on? So we take a pause, right? And we try to figure it out, right? Because it's an inventory. It's not just it's not a emotional dump, step. It's not like you call a sponsor, oh my God, I'm afraid of this. Oh my God, I'm upset. Oh my God, those questions really pissed me off. That's not the point. This is an inventory. So before you call your sponsor or before writing this step, we need to figure it out. We need to figure out the defect, which is it? Selfishness? We have 4 defects in our inventory. Selfishness, dishonesty, self-seeking, frightened, and inconsiderate. So I need to figure this out, right? Next it says, when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them, and we discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly. So my sponsor taught me to send her 10 steps as text messages. And I am forever grateful for this practice because I don't need to call her. I don't need to talk to her. I don't need to coordinate time. I don't need to call a bunch of other people to figure out who I talk to. This is actually I do it most of the time. I do it in a format of a text message. And I figure out my defect and I report to my sponsor. These are the defects that I found, and this is why, I kind of support my research of the character defects. Now here's why. Here's what happened, and here's how I think. Here's why I think it's selfish. Here's why I think it's dishonest. And interestingly enough, when you write and not just talk, you actually access a different part of your brain and a different part of your thinking. So for me, it's working. I mean, some people like to talk things through. I'm a person who doesn't like to talk much, or my mind gets confused easily. But I'm much better at writing stuff. Although you can do the 10 steps, you can do however your sponsor teaches you. But when I write my 10 step, it's just like clarity comes to me, especially when I'm trying to formulate it in a way that my sponsor understands. Because in the beginning, I would just kind of write something, and she would what? She would ask me questions like, why? Or what does this mean? Or I don't understand anything. So I have to explain it to her 2 or 3 times what actually happened. But now I've kind of learned to write them just to make sure that they're clear. Okay. And clarity is great, one of the greatest gifts of the program, So as I start writing this, I'm okay, now I see. Now I see how I'm selfish. Now I see how I'm dishonest. So just putting it in words really helps. So I send it to the sponsor. Automatically, when I get this clarity, it's kind of like a God breeze, I usually feel tremendous relief after I write a 10-step, because I figured out what's blocking me from God. And it automatically goes up to God. Everything that I discover about myself automatically goes up to God. So obviously I ask God to remove them, and it's kind of like my a priori setting that God takes everything away. I'm always in the mode of just take it. I don't want to keep anything, especially my character defects. I don't want them. And then make amends quickly. If he has harmed anyone, that's done very quickly. So you don't wait for a couple of days if you harm somebody to apologize or whatever. Sometimes if it's something small, I just apologize. If it's something bigger, I talk to my sponsor and, I do it an official amend. And then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. And this is one of the crucial steps of step 10, and this is a crucial step of our discipline, because we come to the program as extremely selfish people. So our problem is selfishness. Our solution is, it's obviously God, right, to get connected to God, but we do that through being altruistic. So if selfishness is a problem, altruism is our solution. So the discipline is that whenever you catch yourself, whenever you catch your ego scheming again, right, trying to, get something out of life, then you resolutely turn your thoughts 180 degrees in the opposite direction of who I can help. And the truth of this sentence came to me once in an airplane. I was in Russia, and I was traveling I planned that trip very carefully because it was right after those Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes went down, a couple of them on takeoff. So when I planned that trip, I carefully researched, just to make sure it wasn't that particular model of the airplane. And so, but things got one flight got delayed, so I kind of had like a layover. They put us up in a hotel, then another airplane. I was all jet lagged like crazy, and I was just like, I just slept through the entire takeoff. So I wake up, and I look at the seat. It's dark. It's night. Everybody's sleeping. The lights are off. And I look at the seat in front of me at the pocket, and it says, "Welcome to Boeing 737 MAX 8." I was like, I don't know. I was completely like, all my blood, I don't know, went into my seat. I was just like drained. I was so scared, and I'm looking around, I was like, the flight attendants seem to be nice and smiling. They don't seem to worry about anything. And I'm here, like, my heart is beating, trying to jump out of my chest. And I was so afraid that I was, I probably would have died from that fear, instead of airplane falling. So I'm like, okay, step 10, I remember, like, search for blah, 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 I have this extreme fear. I can't discuss it with my sponsor right now, but I can pretend I'm discussing it with her. So like I kind of worded this fear, like, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm going to die. And then I remember the sentence, we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help, because I couldn't help anybody. There was no Wi-Fi on the plane. The next door, the guy in the seat next to me, he was sleeping, so I literally couldn't help anyone. But I could turn my thoughts resolutely. So I'm like, okay, where do I look? Okay, let's look out this window. Okay, where am I flying over? I'm flying over Russia. Okay, all right, I'm gonna find all the sick people in Russia, and I'm gonna carry the message to them. Like, that's my, promise to you, God. And that very second, the fear left me, and this peace came over me. I was totally like, I don't know. I was absolutely rejoicing. I'm like, oh, they really knew what to say. I mean, they really knew what they were talking about in this book, and the wording, is very precise. So I don't recommend just to turn your thoughts. I always recommend people that they actually do something, because, you can kind of cheat if you just think about helping somebody and never actually do it. So it's helpful to finish every step 10 with helping somebody, right? And so we do it. However many steps, 10 steps in a day you need to, you do that. It could be, 10. It could be 1. It could be none. I very rarely have a day without 10 steps, because I do it very vigorously. There is this phrase, I love that phrase. It says, how free do you want to be? Right? So I assume, that people who are really experience step 1, which is complete defeat and complete desperation of a drowning man, they would want to be really free. So they would do this vigorously, and they would leave no stone unturned. In your mind, in your behavior, in your thoughts, everything needs to be under scrutiny. But that's, again, that's a great opportunity for us to use our obsessive nature to actually turn it against our ego, and finally, effectively disarm the ego so it doesn't kill us, All right, so next paragraph says what's going to happen if we actually don't do that, It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do. For alcohol is a subtle foe, and especially our brain. Our thinking is a very subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower all along this line, all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So it's very, very important not to lose sight of God. So when we try to like do something, that's for a sponsor. A sponsor's job, I forgot actually to mention, a sponsor's job in step 10 is crucial because the sponsor actually watches your step 10 steps. And if you start kind of getting wonky, the sponsor will catch you and say, like my sponsor, the dreaded words, call me. I know it's never going to be good, you know. So I try to like not give her reasons to tell me to call her. But every time it's just usually an unpleasant conversation where your ego gets destroyed once again. But it's a sponsor's job to make sure that the protege understands character defects, and doesn't do anything weird, you know. Once, a few years ago, I was newly single and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna hire a dating coach, you know. And this coach is gonna teach me, I'm gonna pay for money. That's my frequent pitfall. I think I can buy, the ability to manage life. And this was one of those attempts, like, because I'm paying her money, she's gonna now explain to me how to date, and she's gonna like give me the instructions how to do it, and then I'll be able to figure it all out and find, you know, a guy because I have the technology. And I think that, you know, and so I kind of, you know, my sponsor, I wrote about it in my 10 steps, but I guess it didn't catch my sponsor's attention until I started getting really kind of weird. And so she's like, call me. And I'm like, I'm calling her. She's like, okay, what did you do again? I'm like, you know, I hired a dating coach. She's like, okay. And like a few more questions down the road, and then she's like, okay. But where is God in all of this? And I was like, oh crap, like, here I go again. You know, here my ego started like trying to like control stuff and figure it out myself. And so my mind was kind of closed because I thought I knew what I was doing. And anytime you think you know what you're doing, you know, you're going to get a slap on the head from your sponsor or from God or, you know, from both or from life. And so, yeah, we need to bring the vision of God's will into all our activities. So a continually open mind, very, very important. So, we talked about step 10 for half an hour because that's my favorite subject. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our constant conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and empowered to carry that out. So step 11 tells us how we spend time with God, how we develop that relationship with God. Because if you want a relationship with someone, you need to share stuff with them, you need to listen to them, and you need to spend time with them. So same with our relationship with our higher power. We spend time with that higher power. And there are very specific instructions for evening, for morning, and for during the day. So in the evening, we actually write. I do the evening part in a written form. So every night, for all my years in the program, every night I write an email to my sponsor where I answer a bunch of questions. And these questions come from this paragraph on page 85. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something into ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. So in the evening, I usually actually teach people my protege steps 10 and 11 at the same time because it's kind of like a catch-all. Nightly review is a catch-all for all your defects that you observed throughout the day. So I write them. Some people don't write in the nightly review what they had in 10 steps, but I like to do that. So just to repeat, kind of like an overview, a day in the life of my ego. What's my ego up to right now? What kind of selfishness, what kind of tricks is it trying to play today? So I go through my 10 steps and I put them in the nightly review just to observe. And then I ask myself, like, did I miss something? Was there something else? Sometimes I catch those 10 steps while I'm writing a nightly review. And I put them as separate 10 steps to my sponsor at that time because she looks at my 10 steps consistently, but I think sometimes she doesn't read all of my nightly reviews. So I don't put any crucial information. I don't hide it in the nightly review. There is a question there that have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? So this is also like a checkpoint of, am I hiding anything from my sponsor? So because we live by the principle of rigorous honesty, after we've done our inventory, we cannot hide anything. So my life is a completely open book, whether it will be to my sponsor or to anybody else. So it's very, very important not to hide anything. Of course, I don't go around telling people about my life, but I live like under, a glass dome. So all of my actions, all of my thoughts preferably, thoughts could be really wonky, but so that I'm honest, because it's a major, major stress reliever. Being honest is like, you don't have to pretend, you don't have to hide, you don't have to hide evidence or anything like that. It's just people say I hear it all the time. It's life just becomes so simple. I'm like, yeah, when you're honest, it's very simple. So if I'm hiding anything, that question is a great question, because it's I am trying to kind of weasel out of something and not share something, but anyway. And also it talks about we do not drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. So there's the program talks about being hard on ourselves, right? And tolerant and loving to other people. But in what they mean is we're hard on our ego, right? It's the part of us that has all the character defects. But we cannot beat ourselves up. This is prohibited. There's no beating yourself up. You are also a human being, and you are in charge of taking care of you as a human being. So it's I do not tolerate any kind of self morbid reflections. Nope, not gonna happen, because if you are beating yourself up, if you think you're no good, if you think you're whatever, that really paralyzes you, that kind of disables you as the tool of God. What if God wants you to actually, be active or do something, or, sponsor people, or be creative, or be successful in your work? And then there you are sitting oh, I'm no good, I'm full of character defects, whatever. No. That's not what God intended us to do. A healthy person is an active person and is a generous and industrious person who wants to do stuff, who doesn't just want to, sit and moan for me or whatever, So that's our nightly review. Then we have the morning. There's a paragraph in step 11 about the morning. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead and consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, and self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. So this is I love this paragraph. I think I spent like a year reading it every single morning. And every morning there was something new in this paragraph. Oddly enough, the book has this kind of like quality that it's different every time you read it, because like many people believe, and I do, that it was channeled mostly by, it was written by our higher power, and therefore it speaks to you wherever you are. And if you've grown, it speaks to you differently. And so we kind of like, we think about 24 hours ahead, right? Because we have a daily reprieve. We don't generally plan for like year, 2, 3, 5 ahead. So we live day by day, right? So, and we ask God to direct our thinking. This is actually, this is an amazing, actually, prayer. Like, ask God to direct our thinking, because I noticed that, sometimes I cannot catch myself, like, in the middle of the day. Like, it's very hard to, like think about, well, what if I want to compulsively, like, yell at somebody? How do I stop in the moment? Well, it's very, very hard, because the mind and our habits are already in motion, right? So how do you change your behavior? Like, practically, how do you do it? And what I found is that this prayer really helps. We ask God to direct our thinking. I would just visualize, my mind, my thoughts, as if they're like lifting up to a higher plane, and I just like literally ask God, please, please do it. Please think for me, and then it just becomes like, and then your behavior changes, and then your thoughts change. All of a sudden, I was surprised. Many a time I was surprised, like, where did this thought come from? I didn't know. I didn't think it. It was somebody else put it in my head, And so we, yeah. The next paragraph, maybe I'll just read that paragraph. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Then here we ask God for inspiration, intuitive thought, or decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. So this is also discipline. The original 100, the Alcoholics Anonymous, they came from the Oxford group, and the Oxford group had this practice of quiet time with God. So this meditation where you just kind of sit and you listen to God, and if you hear anything, you write it down. And so here it's also, suggested that we do that. But they actually, at that time, now when we think of meditation, it's mostly associated with like yoga or some Eastern practices. But during the time when the Big Book was written, they didn't actually have that. Like the yogic meditations weren't part of the Western world yet. And so for them, meditation, it was more like a quiet reflection, like a general meditated the next morning, so it's just like quiet time with God. So what I'm trying to say is that quiet time is very difficult for us. For me, it was literally like, as a person who spent decades just like running around, being very, very, very busy all the time, just sitting and just like doing nothing was really difficult. So I had to start with like maybe 2 minutes of meditation, just 2 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna like, go through this. I'm gonna be patient. 2 minutes, okay. Sitting on my couch, doing nothing. And then eventually I increased it and increased it and increased it. And I like to do different kinds of meditation. The book recommends us that we maybe seek, maybe study spiritual literature, spiritual practices. Everybody here, the book gives us freedom to explore our own spiritual path, be it religion, be it, some kind of, not religion, but a spiritual practice, Eastern, Western, whatever, Middle Eastern, it doesn't matter. So each of us chooses our own path, but we need to have that quiet time, and meditate, because we need to be able to hear God. And eventually it really improves. It talks about intuition. It talks about how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. And for me, this is one of the greatest joys of my life, is that I'm able to hear those answers. When I need them, they're not just obscure to me. I don't have to seek for them, although, they can come through anything, through a song on the radio or words on the billboard. But I love it when those words just come into your mind as a knowing, boom, do this, Literally, when I was in December of 2016, when I recovered in February 2016, December 31st, I heard very distinct words in my head. Go buy the spiritual book and study it, now. I was like, yes, sir. Okay. So I go to this, ran into the bookstore December 31st, bought this book, and I started studying. It was literally a command that you heard. So it's really fun. It's fun to have that intuition working, and all of us do that, and we kind of it guides us. And when you talk to people in program, in the middle of the conversation, they can say, okay, let me connect with God just for a moment. Okay, all right, here's what I'm going to do, or whatever. It's these people are weird, but we're not, we're just people who need to rely on God in everything that we do, or we perish, so to speak, right? On page 87, we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown also the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. So I love this, the first sentence in this paragraph. It's the complete reversal of our Al-Anon way of thinking. So we ask to be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. Al-Anon approach is usually, I am the commanding general of my, family, my job, whatever. I am the authority here. I decide how this day is going to go, and I have all the power. I have so much strength. I'm such a strong woman. I'm going to solve all of my problems, and then I'm going to solve all of your problems, and then I'm going to make up some problems, and I'm going to solve those problems too. So we're sometimes I think we're addicted to problems because they allow our ego to grow, right? But here it's we ask what our next step is to be. So we're the follower now. We're not the leader anymore. And that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. That's basically asking for help. Asking for help for an Al-Anon is I'd rather die than ask for help. And that's why it takes us so long to come to program, because we don't need no help. I am the strong one. I have 5 Capricorns in my case, So anyway, then we're also given instructions for during the day. We pause. We also ask God for the next thought or action, and then we have just a few minutes. But I kind of did this intentionally because step 12 is really it's something that you learn, to do with your sponsor. Your sponsor will teach you how to talk to newcomers, how to work with them, and so on. But it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics or to others in our case, right, in Al-Anon, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So it's a huge promise in black and white on paper. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I try to always pay attention to this, because it's like, this is a program of creating a miracle out of nothing. You know, it's like, it's a precise algorithm of how to get a spiritual awakening. It's like, excuse me, you know, before this program, in order to get a spiritual awakening, you had to, I don't know, it just happened very rarely. You know, it happened all of a sudden somewhere, you know, high on the mountain in Tibet or whatever, you know, however people got their spiritual awakening. But it was very rare, as Dr. Young, who suggested this solution, right? He said, once in a while, you know, something happens in a person, like they're, you know, they just light up all of a sudden, and boom, and they no longer need to drink. But this program produces a wholesale miracle. So once we go through these steps, if we were at step one, with, you know, I'll put a disclaimer on that. If we did not reach step one when we started working the steps, then we're not ready yet. We won't. Most of the time we won't get that spiritual awakening. But when we do, we need to carry this message to others, in our case, and to other family members. And as they say, whenever, like, there are two or more of us, God is there too. And we heal through helping others heal. We learn the steps through helping others work the steps. We basically learn through teaching. That's how God's teachers work. That's how, like, we are God's teachers, right? But we get as much from the process of sponsoring people as they get, you know, in their recovery. And on page 29, the first paragraph of chapter 7, Working with Others, which is devoted entirely to step 12, page 89 says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other Al-Anons. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other family members. You can help them when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they're very ill. And on page 90 it says, or I think 89, it happens that because your own experience with your illness, you can be uniquely useful to other Al-Anon. So cooperating never criticized to be helpful is our only aim. So we carry this message, which means we look for other family members and we share with them our story. And I don't usually share the story of, like, my external circumstances. And it's like, yeah, I was born, like, when my dad was alcoholic, and they're like, oh, well, my dad was alcoholic, my husband was alcoholic, or I have a son. So it's best to share the actual, like, what's going on in your mind. And this idea that we started this, you know, speaker series with this idea of what do we actually use? What is our alcohol? And we think like the alcoholic drinks. So when you actually start talking about the thinking process, the mental obsession that we have, right? The thought binges that we have, that, you know, I wake up in the morning and I can't go to sleep for like 3-4 hours just thinking. Or I never even fell asleep and it's already 5 a.m. and I need to go to work and I never, like, even, you know, close my eyes. And when we describe the actual inner workings of our mind and the inner emotional states, the utter devastation of our life, when you focus on these internal conditions, then we all come together and it turns out we all have the same illness, be it a mother of an alcoholic, be it a daughter of an alcoholic, be it like a husband of an alcoholic. We all have absolutely the same illness, and external circumstances don't even matter. And then we need to qualify that person. Like, are they actually, the book tells us, that chapter 7 tells us, like, are they actually at that step 1? Have they paid the price of, like, trying everything else before coming here? And so, and it's like, other stuff, it may work even though it may appear not to work first, but then it kind of brings you to the program. But the program is the final stop, okay, of that train. I'll try everything human. Okay, nothing worked, and here's my home. Here's where I can find, they call it the real solution to the problem. This is a very real solution to the problem. And so through helping others, that's how we stay recovered. And now I'm going to start closing. 7th tradition. Every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. This group does not have a payment structure in place and currently requires no overhead expenses. If you would like to fulfill Tradition 7, please direct contributions directly to the Al-Anon World Service Office by visiting alanon.org. For questions about this meeting, or if you are looking for a sponsor, please send emails to alanonbigbookrecovery@gmail.com. Recordings can be accessed on YouTube by searching at the symbol app, Al-Anon Step Speaker, or one word, in the YouTube search box. If you're interested in other Al-Anon meetings that follow the Big Book, please visit www.alanonbigbooksolutiongroup.org. From page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in the morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Now let's have a moment of silence for the Al-Anon who still suffers, followed by the Lord's Prayer or a prayer of your own choosing said in silence. Who loves us and keeps us sane. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And recording.